The burning chambers. The night inside the alien facility was heavy with smoke and heat. Metal walls shook with the sound of roaring fire deep below. The human worker named Daniel stood by a broken console, wiping sweat from his forehead. He was only a maintenance man, a small figure in a massive machine built by alien masters. His job was to keep the pipes running, to make sure the chambers never stopped. If the chambers stopped, the whole city above would lose power. But Daniel knew the truth. Everyone in the facility knew the truth. The fire was not fed by coal, not by oil. It was fed by living prisoners. The aliens had found a way to boil flesh into pure energy. And the people of the galaxy turned their eyes away. Nobody wanted to know, nobody wanted to see. That night was different. The air felt wrong. The screams had been louder than usual. He stood near the upper rail, looking down at the iron platform. Chains rattled as guards dragged new prisoners into the chamber. The floor was wet with steam, and shadows moved like ghosts across the walls. Daniel tried to look away. He always tried, but his eyes betrayed him. They locked onto a young alien girl with silver skin and dark eyes that burned with fear. She stumbled as the guards pushed her forward. Her feet bare, her hands bound, she looked small, fragile. Too fragile for a place of fire. The guards shouted in their cruel tongue, ordering her to stand. But she fell again on the hot metal floor. The worker next to Daniel whispered, "She's next." Another spark for the fire. Daniel's stomach twisted. He gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. The chamber below hissed as the boiling pit opened. Steam poured out, covering the air with the smell of metal and ash. The heat rose like a giant's breath. The prisoners waiting in line shook with silent terror. One by one they would be boiled. One by one their lives would become fuel for the Empire. Daniel thought of turning away. He thought of walking back to the consoles, to pretend he saw nothing. That was how everyone survived here. You pretend, you obey, you keep your head down. But something about the girl's eyes pulled him back. She was not screaming like the others. She was silent, watching, searching. Her gaze rose slowly toward the upper platform, and it met his. For a long moment, Daniel could not move. The world around him faded. The guards' voices became far away. All he could see were her eyes, shining with a plea he did not understand. The guards yanked her up again, dragging her closer to the pit. Her chains clattered across the floor. She stumbled and twisted, and in that twist, she fell toward the corner of the platform where Daniel's console stood. The guards cursed, bending to pull her back. But before they could reach, her hand shot forward. Her fingers wrapped around Daniel's wrist. Her skin was cold, trembling, weak but desperate. He froze. His breath caught in his throat. No prisoner had ever dared touch a worker before. Her lips moved, and in a voice so soft it was almost lost in the roar of the fire, she whispered a single word, "Please." Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. The word echoed in his mind, louder than the alarms, louder than the fire. He wanted to pull away. He should have pulled away. The guards were only steps away. If they saw, he would be punished. Workers who interfered were thrown into the pit themselves. But he did not pull away. Something inside him cracked. The silence he had kept for years broke in that instant. That one word, that one whisper was heavier than all the rules. The guards grabbed her, ripping her hand away from his. They did not notice the moment. They thought it was only a stumble. They dragged her back toward the opening pit. But Daniel's wrist still burned with the memory of her touch. His mind still echoed with that single word. The chamber roared, the floor trembled. Steam filled the air like a storm. Daniel looked at the other workers. None of them had moved. None of them had even blinked. They stood like stone, blind and deaf. They had already buried their hearts long ago. But Daniel felt alive. Alive in a way he had not felt for years. He could not shake the image of her hand reaching out. He could not silence the whisper in his head. "Please." As the guards prepared the levers, as the pit glowed brighter with boiling fire, Daniel stepped back from the console. His hands shook, his mind raced. He knew what he was thinking was madness. He knew it meant death, but for the first time in his life, he asked himself a question. If no one else would stop this, then who would? The chamber screamed with fire. The girl screamed without sound. And Daniel's heart whispered back, "Please." Daniel's wrist still tingled where her cold fingers had gripped him. His mind could not let go of that single word. "Please." It echoed like thunder inside his skull, louder than the fire below, louder than the guards' shouts. He stood frozen near the console, watching the guards drag her back toward the edge of the boiling pit. Steam hissed from the open mouth of the chamber. The air shook with heat and the smell of burning filled his lungs. He wanted to move, but his legs felt locked. His heart pounded so hard he thought the guards would hear it. The girl's eyes turned once more toward him. Though the guards jerked her forward, her lips did not move this time, but her stare was enough. It carried the same message as her whisper. It was not only fear, it was hope, fragile and impossible, but it was there. Daniel clenched his fists. He told himself he was only a worker. He told himself he could not fight the Empire. He told himself this was not his fight. But the whisper had cut through every lie he had lived with. The sound of her voice had made him human again. A worker beside him muttered, "Don't stare too long, they'll notice. They'll throw you in next." Daniel looked away quickly. His throat was dry, he felt sweat dripping down his neck. He knew the other workers were right. One mistake, one wrong step, and his life would end in the fire. Yet his hands would not stop shaking. His mind would not let go. The guards prepared the chains above the pit. The girl's body trembled. She was so weak that even standing seemed impossible. One guard shoved her hard and she collapsed onto her knees. Another laughed, kicking her side. Their cruelty was normal here, but tonight Daniel could not accept it. His stomach twisted as if he himself had been struck. He took a step forward, then stopped. Fear stabbed into him. If he acted, if he spoke, there would be no return. He would not only lose his life, but every worker would turn on him too. They had families to protect. They would not risk their own survival for one alien girl. And yet that whisper, "Please," one was louder than fear. The supervisor shouted orders. "Throw her in! Increase the fire!" The chamber shook as machinery came alive. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. The crowd of prisoners cried out, their voices blending into one desperate wail. Daniel could not stand it anymore. His voice burst out before he even realized, "Wait!" The word echoed across the chamber, sharp and clear. The guards froze, their heads turned upward. Their eyes narrowed at the worker who dared to speak. Silence fell heavy in the room. Even the prisoners stopped crying. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. He could not believe what he had done, but the girl's head lifted slowly. Her eyes widened with a flicker of hope. For her, even one word from him was a shield. The supervisor snarled, "What did you say, worker?" His alien voice cut like steel. Daniel's lips trembled, his body shook, but the whisper still rang in his ears. He gathered his courage. "The chamber is unstable. If you drop her in now, it could damage the system." The guards looked uncertain. The machines groaned louder than before. Steam hissed from broken valves. Daniel had worked in this place long enough to know every weakness of the system, and now he used that knowledge to buy a moment. The supervisor cursed, waving his hand. "Fix it then. But quickly!" The guards pulled the girl back from the edge, still holding her tightly. But for now she was not thrown in. For now she was alive. Daniel's legs almost collapsed beneath him. His lie had worked. He knelt by the console. Pretending to check wires, his hands moved quickly, though inside he shook like a leaf in a storm. The girl was still chained, still in danger, but her eyes found him again. This time she mouthed the word without sound. "Please." The whisper was no longer just sound, it was a bond. A silent rope pulling him toward a choice he could not escape. He knew this moment had changed everything. He could not return to silence. Not after this. Minutes passed like hours. Guards muttered, waiting for orders. Prisoners shifted, staring at the human who dared to speak. Some looked at him with fear, others with desperate hope. Daniel felt the weight of every gaze pressing down on him. Finally, the supervisor barked, "Enough stalling. If the system breaks, we repair it later. Throw her in now." The guards yanked the girl upward again. She cried out softly, her chains rattled like thunder. Daniel's heart raced. He knew if he stayed quiet now, she would die, and her whisper would haunt him forever. He rose slowly from the console, his hands trembling but his eyes locked on the guards. The air seemed to grow still. His breath felt heavy. His voice, low but firm, broke the silence again. No. The word was simple, but it was stronger than steel. The guards froze once more. Shock spread across the room. No worker had ever said such a word, not here, not against them. The girl's eyes filled with tears. For the first time she looked not just afraid, but alive. Her whisper had reached him, and now his answer was clear. In that burning chamber surrounded by fire and death, a single human had whispered back, not with fear, but with defiance. And the galaxy would never forget what followed. The word hung in the air like a blade. No. Daniel had said it, and the walls of the chamber seemed to shake with its echo. The guard stared at him in disbelief. The other workers froze, afraid to even breathe. No one had ever refused an order here. No one had ever challenged the Empire inside these burning chambers. The supervisor's eyes narrowed, glowing with fury. "What did you say, worker?" his alien voice hissed. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He wanted to take back his words, he wanted to run. But the whisper from the girl still filled his mind. That one soft plea, "please," had burned into his soul. He could not erase it. "I said no," Daniel repeated. His voice was weak but steady. His legs shook, but he stood straight. The guards growled, stepping forward with their weapons ready. The prisoners gasped in shock. They had seen humans before, but never one who stood against the firekeepers. The supervisor's lip curled. "Do you value this creature's life more than your own?" He pointed at the girl. The guards jerked her chains harshly. She stumbled forward, her silver skin glowing in the firelight. She looked half-broken already, yet her eyes remained locked on Daniel. She said nothing, but her stare screamed louder than any word. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to shout, he wanted to fight, but the truth weighed heavy. He had no weapon, no power. He was only a worker. Still, something deep inside told him that silence now would mean death for more than her. It would mean death for his own soul. He forced the words out. "She doesn't deserve this." His voice cracked. The chamber roared with steam. "None of them do." The other workers turned away, trembling. They knew these words were forbidden. To say them aloud was to invite death. Some shook their heads, silently warning him to stop. But Daniel felt as if a wall inside him had already broken. There was no going back. The supervisor's voice thundered, "Seize him!" Guards rushed forward. Daniel's heart raced. He stepped back. His hands darted across the console, sparks flying as he pulled a lever free. The machines groaned and the chamber lights flickered. Alarms wailed across the halls. The guards hesitated. The sudden chaos gave Daniel a heartbeat of time. He grabbed the loose iron bar from the broken console. His hands gripped it tight. It was not much, but it was something. The girl stumbled closer as the guards struggled to control the system. Her chains rattled. Her voice finally rose, weak and trembling. "Please, don't leave me." The sound struck Daniel harder than any blade. He leapt forward, swinging the iron bar at the nearest guard. The blow landed with a crack. The alien fell back, roaring in pain. Another guard charged. Daniel blocked desperately. Sparks flew from clashing metal. He had no training, no plan, only fear and anger pushing him forward. The prisoners watched in stunned silence. Some pressed against their chains, straining as if Daniel's courage had awakened something in them too. For years they had seen nothing but cruelty, but now, one man was fighting back. Daniel grabbed the girl's arm, pulling her away from the pit. Her body was weak, almost weightless in his grip. She stumbled but clung to him, her eyes wide with both fear and wonder. It was as if she herself could not believe someone had chosen her life over obedience. "Run," he whispered. Though there was nowhere to run, alarm screamed. Soldiers rushed into the chamber. Weapons glowed with fire, the air filled with chaos. The supervisor's furious voice echoed over the noise. "Kill them both. Burn the traitor alive." Daniel's chest tightened. He had crossed the line. There was no return. He would never again be a simple worker. His choice had been made, but even as fear clawed at him, he felt something strange. It was strength, a fire inside him that was brighter than the one roaring in the pit. For the first time he was not only alive, he was free. The girl stumbled beside him, whispering again, softer now. "Why?" Her question cut through the madness. Daniel looked at her, sweat dripping, blood on his arm. His answer came without thought. "Because you asked." Her eyes glistened. Tears mixed with steam on her cheeks. In that moment, she knew her whisper had changed everything. Guards surrounded them, weapons aimed. Daniel raised his iron bar. His chest heaving, he knew he could not win. He knew this was the end, yet he stood firm. His choice already made, he would not let her burn. Not while he still breathed. The prisoners began to shout. Chains clattered as they stamped their feet. Their voices rose like thunder. The chamber that once knew only silence now roared with defiance. The Empire had built this place on fear, but tonight fear was cracking. Daniel pulled the girl behind him. His body ready to take the blow, he whispered back to her. The same word she had given him, "Please, hold on." And as the first shot of fire tore through the air, Daniel knew the forbidden choice had already lit a spark that could never be put out. The first blast of fire hit the wall beside Daniel. The stone glowed red, sparks raining down. The prisoners screamed. Chains rattled like thunder. Guards shouted in fury. Their glowing weapons pointed straight at him. Daniel stood with nothing but a bent iron bar. His chest rose and fell, his breath heavy. Beside him the girl trembled, too weak to even stand straight, yet her eyes clung to him like he was her last anchor. The supervisor's voice cut through the chaos. "Burn him now!" Burn them both. The order was sharp as a blade. Guards moved forward in a deadly line. The firelight turned their armor into shadows of death. Daniel knew he could not fight them all. His grip tightened on the iron bar. His arm shook, he was ready to die here, but then something inside him snapped. He swung the bar down at the console beside him. Sparks exploded. Wires ripped free, the chamber groaned like a wounded beast. Red alarms screamed louder than ever. The floor trembled under their feet. Steam poured from broken pipes. The guards hesitated, their weapons ready. But the chamber itself had turned wild. Fire burst from the ceiling. Smoke covered the air. For a moment, confusion spread among them. Daniel grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her forward. "Run!" he shouted. She stumbled, her bare feet slipping on the hot floor. But she clung to him. They dashed past the first guard. Daniel swung the iron bar with desperate strength. The alien staggered, giving them a narrow path. The prisoners roared. Their voices rose in waves. Some yanked at their chains. Some slammed their bodies against the iron bars. The sound filled the chamber like a storm. Daniel realized they were no longer silent. His act had broken something greater than chains. It had broken fear. The guards shouted angrily, striking prisoners to silence them, but the noise only grew louder. For years they had been shadows, but now they had a voice, and that voice screamed in unity. Daniel and the girl stumbled toward the side corridor. Soldiers rushed to block them. One swung a blade of burning plasma. Daniel raised the iron bar. The clash sent a shock through his arms. The bar bent further, but he pushed with all his strength. The soldier fell back, another lunged. Daniel ducked, barely pulling the girl aside in time. The blade scorched the floor where her body had been. Her breathing was ragged, her body too weak to fight. But her eyes glowed with fierce light, she whispered. "Don't stop." Her words lit fire in Daniel's chest. He swung again, striking another guard across the helmet. Sparks flew. The alien crashed to the ground. Daniel dragged the girl through the opening. The corridor beyond was dark and filled with smoke. But it was freedom compared to the pit. Behind them, chaos consumed the chamber. Guards fought not only Daniel, but the prisoners too. Chains shook, fists struck. The rebellion had begun. It was small, it was desperate, but it was real. The supervisor's furious roar echoed through the smoke. "Crush them! Crush every one of them!" But his voice was lost in the storm of screams. For the first time, the prisoners had dared to fight back. Daniel pulled the girl into the shadowed corridor. His lungs burned, his legs shook, but he did not stop. He could hear footsteps chasing, the pounding of alien boots behind them. Where are we going?" The girl whispered weakly. Daniel's eyes darted around. He had worked here for years. He knew the tunnels, the pipes, the hidden doors workers used. "Down," he said. "We have to go down." The girl stumbled again, nearly collapsing. Daniel caught her. His arms carried her now. She was light, too light, as if starvation had already eaten half her life away. Her head rested against his shoulder. "Why?" she whispered again. "Why are you doing this?" Daniel's throat tightened. He had no clear answer. His whole life he had obeyed. He had watched silently while countless prisoners were burned. But one whisper had broken him. "Because you asked me," he said softly. Her eyes glistened even in the smoke. Her lips trembled. She pressed her hand weakly against his chest. "Then I'll fight too." Daniel almost laughed through the terror. She could barely stand, yet her words carried strength. She was no longer just a prisoner waiting for death. She was a spark of rebellion. The footsteps grew louder behind them. Shadows moved in the smoke. Daniel tightened his grip on the bar. He knew they would not escape easily, but something had changed tonight. This was no longer only survival. This was resistance. The prisoners' voices echoed from the chamber, louder than before. The sound of chains breaking filled the air. Daniel's heart raced. He realized he was no longer alone. His defiance had spread like fire in dry grass. The rebellion had begun, and the Empire would never forget the night one worker chose to say no. Daniel held the girl tighter, his voice low but steady. "We're not done yet." And together they disappeared deeper into the burning corridors. carrying with them the first flame of freedom. The smoke clung to their skin as Daniel and the alien girl ran deeper into the tunnels. His breath came sharp, his chest burned, but he did not stop. The girl leaned against him, her weak body trembling with every step. Yet her eyes stayed open, watching the shadows around them, behind them. The chamber was no longer silent. The screams of rebellion echoed through the walls. Guards shouted, weapons cracked, prisoners roared in defiance. Daniel had started a fire he could not control. But it was not the boiling fire of the Empire. It was a fire of voices, of courage, but freedom was far. Daniel knew it. He had worked in this facility for years. He knew every pipe, every stairwell, every hidden corner. He also knew the guards would not stop. The Empire never forgave betrayal. They would hunt him until he was ash in the pit. Alarms blared overhead, red lights flashed. Metal shutters slammed across corridors. The building groaned like a beast tightening its jaws. Daniel pulled the girl down a side shaft, sliding across wet stone. His boots scraped as he caught her before she hit the ground. The girl coughed, her voice cracked. Why are they so cruel? Daniel swallowed. He had asked himself that question 100 times, but never dared speak it. Now with her eyes on him, he whispered, because fear makes them strong. She shook her head weakly. Then we can't fear. Her words struck him. So small, so fragile, yet stronger than the walls of the chamber. Daniel nodded, pulling her forward again. Footsteps thundered behind them. Shadows stretched on the walls. Alien soldiers with burning weapons scanned the dark. Their voices echoed, find the human. Bring the girl alive. Daniel's stomach twisted. They did not only want to kill her, they wanted her alive. Why? He looked at the girl, sweat on her brow. Her lips moved, but no sound came. She seemed to hold a secret, one heavier than chains. They reached a junction where 3 tunnels split. Daniel hesitated, his mind raced. He remembered an old drainage pipe leading to the lower pits. Few guards ever went there. It was dark, filled with ash and water, but it might give them time. This way, he muttered, pulling her left. The tunnel narrowed. Pipes hissed overhead, steam stung his skin. The girl stumbled but forced herself to keep moving. What's your name? Daniel asked suddenly. She looked at him in surprise, her lips trembled. Lyra? The name felt heavy. Daniel repeated it in his mind. Lyra, no longer just a prisoner, no longer just a spark in the fire. She was real, she was alive behind them. The hunt grew louder. Boots slammed closer. The hiss of weapons burned through the air. Daniel quickened his steps. His arms ached, but he refused to let her fall. They reached the drainage pit. Water dripped from broken pipes. Black ash floated on the surface. The stench was heavy. Daniel slid down. Pulling Lyra with him, they crouched low. The shadows swallowed them whole. For a moment there was silence except for their breathing. Daniel's chest rose and fell. He pressed his hand against the wet stone. Listening, the footsteps drew nearer. Voices barked orders. He held his breath. Lyra clutched his arm, her whisper barely a breath. They can't have me. Daniel looked at her, confused. Why? Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Because if they burn me, they won't just take my body. They will take what's inside me. Daniel frowned. What do you mean? But before she could answer, lights flashed across the tunnel. Guards entered. Their shadows stretched like monsters. Daniel held her close, pressing a finger to his lips. The guards scanned the dark. Their weapons hummed with deadly heat. One stepped closer to the drainage pit. Daniel gripped the iron bar tight, his heart slammed like a drum. He whispered inside himself, not yet, not yet. The guard's eyes swept past them. For a heartbeat, Daniel thought they were safe. But then a drop of water slid from the pipe above and splashed onto the soldier's shoulder. He turned sharply, his weapon rising. Daniel didn't think. He lunged forward, swinging the iron bar. The blow smashed the guard's head to the wall. Sparks flew as the weapon clattered down. The other soldiers roared, rushing forward. Run! Daniel shouted, pulling Lyra deeper into the drainage pipe. Water splashed around their feet as they dashed into the dark. Behind them, fire beams cut through the walls. The tunnel shook, but Daniel kept running. Dragging her with him, Lyra gasped, her breath breaking. They'll never stop. Daniel's voice was hard now. Then neither will I. The tunnel curved downward. The sound of pursuit echoed close. Daniel's heart raced. He knew this was only the beginning. The hunt had started. And the Empire would not rest until both he and Lyra were caught. But deep inside his chest, beneath the fear and exhaustion, Daniel felt something else. It was not just rebellion. Not just defiance, it was purpose for the first time in his life. He was not only surviving, he was fighting for someone. And no matter how far the hunt chased them, he would not let her whisper die. The drainage tunnel twisted downward, dark and wet. Every step Daniel took splashed water beneath his boots. His arms ached from holding Lyra. Yet he did not stop. Her body was weak, but her eyes stayed open, shining faintly in the dim light behind them. The sound of boots hammered the stone floor. The guards were still chasing. Their voices echoed like growls. The human. The girl. Don't let them reach the lower gates. Daniel's lungs burned. He pushed forward, guiding Lyra deeper into the maze of pipes. Finally, the narrow tunnel opened into a long steel corridor. The air here was colder, filled with humming machines. Rows of lights flickered on the ceiling. Stretching far into the distance, Daniel paused, pressing his back against the wall. He listened. The echoes behind him were closer. He had minutes, maybe less. "We need to move fast," he whispered. Lyra nodded weakly, her lips trembling. They began running down the corridor. The floor shook with the rhythm of massive engines below. Daniel knew this place. It was the escape corridor that led to the maintenance docks. If they could reach the last gate, there might be a way out into the surface tunnels. But there was one problem. The corridor was always guarded. Halfway down, Lyra stumbled, nearly falling. Daniel caught her. Her breath was ragged, her skin pale. I can't," she whispered. Daniel shook his head, lifting her into his arms. "You can. We both can." His voice was harsh but steady. Suddenly a loud clang echoed from behind. Soldiers poured into the corridor, their weapons glowing with fire. The red light of alarms painted their armor like blood. Daniel's heart pounded. He ran faster, carrying Lyra in his arms. "Stop them!" the commander roared. Fire blasts seared the walls, sparks rained down. The corridor filled with smoke. Daniel ducked low, his boots slamming against the steel floor. They reached the first checkpoint, a steel door with a scanner. "Locked," Daniel cursed, his mind raced. He had worked here for years. He knew the system. He slammed his fist against the panel, wires sparking. Lyra reached out weakly, her fingers glowing faint blue. The scanner blinked, the lock clicked open. Daniel's eyes widened. You did that?" Lyra's lips trembled. "It's my gift. That's why they want me." Before Daniel could ask more, the soldiers closed in. He shoved the door open and rushed inside. Pulling her with him, the corridor narrowed again, twisting toward the last sector. His arms ached, his breath came sharp, but he refused to stop. He could hear the guards behind faster now. Their fire blasts lit the tunnel red. Finally, they reached the last gate. A massive steel door with heavy gears. Beyond it lay the surface shafts. Freedom. But the gate was guarded. 4 armored soldiers stood ready. Their weapons aimed. Daniel froze, his chest tight. He had no strength left, no plan. He only had the bent iron bar still in his hand. He set Lyra gently against the wall. His eyes locked on the guards, his voice low. "Stay here, no matter what." She shook her head weakly. "No, I'll fight too." Daniel's heart twisted. She was too fragile, yet her spirit burned brighter than the fire behind them. The guards stepped forward, weapons raised. Daniel charged. His scream echoed down the corridor. He swung the bar with all his strength. The first guard staggered back, sparks flew, a second fired. The blast grazed Daniel's arm, burning his skin. He roared in pain but did not stop. Behind him, Lyra pressed her hand against the wall. Her skin glowed brighter, energy rippled from her touch. The lights above flickered. Machines around them stuttered. The guards stumbled as their weapons fizzled for a heartbeat. Daniel used the moment, swinging hard. 2 guards fell. The others struggled with their dead weapons. Daniel struck again. The last one dropped with a crash. Breathless, covered in sweat and blood, Daniel stumbled to the gate, his hands fumbled at the gears. "Help me," he gasped. Lyra dragged herself forward. Her hand glowing again, she pressed against the lock. The gears groaned and turned with a thunderous crack. The gate opened. Cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of freedom. For a moment, Daniel and Lyra both stared, hardly believing it, but behind them, more soldiers thundered into the corridor. Their commander's furious roar filled the air. "Don't let them escape." Daniel lifted Lyra into his arms again, his legs trembling, his chest burning. He stepped into the open shaft. The gate slammed shut behind them. The corridor filled with shouts and weapons fire. But they were beyond reach for now. Lyra leaned against him, her voice a weak whisper. "You saved me." Daniel shook his head, his eyes hard. "No, You saved me. The escape corridor was behind them. But the hunt was not over. Ahead lay darkness, unknown tunnels, and a galaxy that would not forgive rebellion. Yet Daniel felt something he had not felt in years, hope, and as he carried Lyra deeper into the cold night shafts, he knew the first battle was won, but the real war had just begun. The cold air of the outer shafts cut into Daniel's lungs as he carried Lyra forward. The narrow tunnel smelled of rust and stone, far different from the burning chambers they had left behind. Every step echoed, reminding him the hunt was still close. Behind them, faint shouts and metal clangs rang out. The Empire had not given up. Daniel's arms trembled from her weight. His body ached, but he held her tightly. Lyra's head rested weakly on his shoulder, her breath shallow. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dark. He kept moving step by step, one thought burning in his mind. He could not stop. Not now. Not after all they had faced. Finally, the tunnel opened into a wider cavern. The roof stretched high, broken beams of light filtering from cracks above for the first time in hours. Daniel breathed in air that was not filled with smoke. He set Lyra gently on a stone ledge, kneeling beside her. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice shook. She smiled faintly. "I've been hurt for a long time." Her hand brushed his arm. "But I'm still here." "Because of you?" Daniel swallowed hard, his chest heavy. He looked back toward the tunnels. The echoes of boots grew louder again. The hunt was still coming. "We don't have much time," he whispered. "We need to get out of here." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. Her body trembled as if gathering strength. "There's something you should know," she whispered. Daniel leaned closer. Her voice was fragile, yet steady. "My people. We were hunted not just for energy. We carry something inside us, something they fear. I can disrupt their machines. You saw it when I touched the locks. That's why they wanted me alive. If I survive, I can break their empire." Daniel's breath caught. He remembered the lights flickering, the weapons failing. Her touch had turned their strongest machines weak. His mind reeled. "That's why. They were so desperate to keep you." She nodded slowly. "But the power drains me. I can't use it long. I needed someone to help me escape." Her eyes opened, shining in the dim cavern light. "And you came." Daniel's chest tightened. He had thought he was saving just one life, but now he realized the truth. He might have saved something far greater. His choice had set fire to more than a chamber. It had touched the fate of worlds. The sound of boots thundered closer. Shadows flickered against the tunnel walls. The soldiers were almost here. Daniel's hand gripped the bent iron bar tighter. He looked at Lyra. "Then we fight together." She shook her head, her hand brushing his wrist. "No, not fight. Survive." Her lips trembled as she whispered again. "Please don't let go." That word, it struck him again. The same as before, the same word that had pulled him out of silence. The same word that had turned him from a worker into a rebel. "Please." It was more than a plea now, it was trust. Daniel stood tall. His body shook with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with fire. The first soldiers burst into the cavern. Weapons glowing, Daniel stepped in front of Lyra. His iron bar raised, his voice cut through the air. "You'll have to go through me," the soldiers charged. Fire roared. Daniel swung wildly. His body moved with pure instinct. The clash of metal filled the cavern. Sparks burst. Pain ripped through his arm as a blast grazed him. He stumbled but did not fall. Behind him, Lyra pressed her glowing hand to the ground. The cavern lights flickered. The soldiers' weapons sputtered and died. Daniel roared, striking hard. One soldier fell, another stumbled back. The prisoner's screams from the chamber still echoed in his mind. Their defiance gave him strength. He struck again and again. Until the last guard collapsed, silence followed, broken only by Daniel's ragged breathing. His chest heaved, his arms trembled. He turned to Lyra, who leaned weakly against the stone. Her glow fading, she whispered again, softer now. "Please, don't leave me." Daniel knelt beside her, his hand gripping hers tight. "Never," he said firmly. "I'll never let go." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time since her capture, she smiled, fragile but real. "Then hope still lives." Daniel looked up at the cracks in the cavern ceiling. Light filtered through, brighter than before. The rebellion had begun in the burning chambers. But here, in this forgotten shaft, he realized it was more than rebellion. It was the birth of something new. He lifted Lyra into his arms again, his voice steady. "We're going to make it. I promise." And as he carried her toward the light above, The whisper that had changed everything still echoed in his heart. Please. The galaxy would remember the night when one word lit a fire that no empire could ever extinguish.